Chunty.
Yes, hello, hello. It is me, the one and only. Thank God, as I keep saying on everything that I introduce myself on, that I am the only one. The one and only Uncle Chunt. Talking head from down under, budding comic book creator and man in the middle. Yes, before we begin, please consider joining the Chunk Corps by following and subscribing and all that good stuff. Let's just hook right into it. First thing I want to do, there's an update on the Unicron. Hasbro's finally put something out about the production pipeline on, the big Unicron thing I talked about last week. The Transformer, the Chaos Bringer. I just want to show you this pretty neat video behind the scenes. You don't really see this too much. So we'll flip over here and you can see the video is already lined up halfway. So we'll just start it back here. You don't really see this kind of stuff. Real factory, how they're building this. Now there's only about 10,000 of these that they're doing, right? Now I'm getting one of them. But you can just see how meticulous this is. I never realized it was this full on. Let's turn the volume down. I mean, to do this 10,000 times, goddamn, you get over it pretty damn quick. I don't know if this is how they make the normal little figures as well, like the Deluxe and the Voyager figures that I've shown or talked about on the channel before. But you'll see a couple shots of how big the actual guy is when they're putting it together. I'm pretty surprised at how large it is. But you can see how they've just made everything. Cutouts and stencils, and I kind of had an idea that's what they would do. Like I didn't imagine people would just be sitting there swapping a paint with a brush. But they do touch-ups here, which is interesting to know. So sometimes when you do get those paint defects, it's human error, I guess. Like I thought this was all like on a machine pipeline where it's just like, conveyor belts of, properly placed robots flicking their brushes or squirting paint and stuff. I didn't fully realize. Oh, I just got a subscriber. Alright, cool. Thanks, Direct Gaming. Oh, thank you very much. Didn't think I would get these triggers while I was recording. I'm not live or anything, so cool. That's a nice surprise, I guess. But man, I wasn't paying attention, but so I was distracted by the new subscriber. But you can see how large it's getting, and that's just part of it. Like an arm, and that's a thigh, and there's some of the torso coming together. Man, oh, it's the legs, the hips and the legs, pelvis and that. There's the abadabbas, the gold paint, and the red abadabbas in the middle. Like giant rubies. Alright, look how big this is. It's like a toddler. Oh my god. I can't wait. Like, it looks like an absolute ass to actually transform, but imagine having to transform this thing 10,000 times just to get it in the packaging. But it's good to know that it's coming compacted like that. I was a bit concerned it was coming in the robot form. Or just folded up into two pieces or something. I heard months ago that it was coming in two pieces, but it's good to know that that's how it is, and that's the pipeline. Very interesting to see. I mean, you don't, as I said at the start, you don't see that too much. So I just wanted to share that with you based on last week's Ask Chunk question was asking me about Unicron, and this came out a couple days later. Anywho, so yeah, we just busted through that pretty quick. So we're done. Very good. So this week's CHUNTCAST is going to be a bit shorter. I went a bit longer last week, and I want to avoid that this time. It's been a bit of a quiet week anyway, so I didn't really pick too much out that really stood out to me, but there are two things in particular that I really want to discuss, and I want to have a bit more time with those two topics. So it'll be about Maximilian Dude, who is a streamer, and he's a massive Killer Instinct fan, and he helped actually make the rebooted one on Xbox that came out, and he's been trying to push it ever since. The hashtag bring back KI has been going around that he started trying to get Microsoft's attention in building a new game, right? And the second topic is about Zack Snyder. Yeah, I'm talking about Zack Snyder again, calling out the media fakers out there. And he dropped a pretty heavy quote that said a lot without saying much at all, but I want to talk about it because I think it's worth talking about, which I haven't seen too much discussion about online, so I may as well be the one to do it myself. Anywho, so let's flick over to Killer Instinct here. So this is just to give you an idea of, for those of you who don't know, Killer Instinct is a fighting game franchise that started back in arcades and was ported to Super Nintendo back in the day by Rare. Those of you who know what Rare is, that, you know, they did the Donkey Kong Country games and Conker's Bad Fur Day and all that kind of stuff back in the day before they were bought by Microsoft, then fell off. And they've since had a resurgence of sorts in recent times, but Killer Instinct was made by a completely different studio. It eventually moved over to Iron Galaxy. They missed out on putting forward their submission or their portfolio or whatever first. They missed out because their timing didn't line up, so they went with Double Helix. And they made this awesome, amazing game that nobody knew was coming, right? So before I get into why I'm talking about Maximilian and the Twitch stream that he did, where he held a live tournament on Twitch, and it was supported by Twitch and all that kind of stuff. So it was an official thing, right? But I want to show you his reaction video for when Microsoft announced Killer Instinct way back in 2013. I had a similar reaction to him. Obviously, he's more invested than I am, but I was out of my chair and fist pumping the air, you know, like I could not believe it. So let's just have a look, shall we? I still get goosebumps looking at this. It's just cool to see. I'll let it explain it for itself.
Exclusively on Xbox One at launch, and it's now in theater playable at E3.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Launch title. That's how you do it. Start announcing launch titles. What the fuck?
Coming to your home in 2013, only on Xbox One! Jago!
Ah!
Glacius!
Ah!
Saber Wolf!
Ah!
Ultra Combo! Killer Instinct!
Ah!
Oh, I love it.
We listened, and Killer Instinct is back, only on Xbox One.
Phil Spencer, mate.
Now, I want to talk about another creative first-party partner, one that I've personally admired and wanted to work with for a long time.
I'm fucking crying.
Visionaries behind the...
Yeah, so that's that's how invested he is in Killer Instinct, right? It was like his favorite fighting game way back in the arcade days and all the way through, for various reasons, which if you follow his content, I subscribe to him and follow him on Twitch and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy his content, and he makes me want to play fighting games, and that's what his whole angle is. He wants to bring fighting games back into, you know, the mainstream, so to speak, and the popular zeitgeist, rather than it just being a niche, which it always usually has been. Always usually. Shouldn't really say that. Doesn't make sense. Bad grammar and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but I understand where he's coming from. His whole channel is about that. Is just playing fighting games and showing you why it's cool. All the different fighting games throughout history. Like he does PS1 like legacy series where he goes through every fighting game that's on the PS1 and so forth on different platforms. Now I really enjoy that, and he's entertaining as well, right? So what I should do is just play some of the actual tournament that they did, just muted, just so you can see what it actually was, right? So that's Max on the right, and he's got these other two guys. I'm sorry I'm unfamiliar with the other two, but that's their handles. I timed that pretty well. But yeah, they're in the community and they're involved in making these games in some respect, I assume, as Max is. Oh, I just got a bloody eyelash in my eye while I'm doing this show. I'm not crying, it's just an eyelash in my eye. But so yeah, what they did, they held this sanctioned tournament live on Twitch, and it was between crossplay like Xbox and Windows machines, with the exclusive game Killer Instinct on Microsoft platforms. Twitch Rivals was the program or the promotion for this as an esport event, and Twitch streamers from all around the world took part, like pro players or former pro players from back in the day, all convened to be a part of this tournament. I watched it all. It was like 4 and a bit hours or something. This is on his YouTube channel, so I watched this the other night just to catch up with it because I wanted to see it. I was working at the time, but at their peak, apparently the article that I read when this was live or came out, they updated the article later saying, and they mentioned it during the stream, that they had about 40,000 viewers at the time, which is massive, right? Like it was hosted on his channel, and he's got a massive following as it is. But for these people to tune into Killer Instinct Tournament, a game that came out in 2013, that was made in a year on a shoestring budget, you know, he talks about Hold Back to Block. It's another channel. They did a documentary on the making of this Killer Instinct game. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I love Killer Instinct ever since it came out ever since I played it on the Super Nintendo, with on a mate's Super Nintendo. We never had it, but it always took with me. And the music, the sound effects, everything about it, like the presentation, it just, there's something really special about that game that never left me, at least, and many other fighting game fans around the world. And when they rebooted it in 2013, it was made by fans, basically. Double Helix was like, holy crap, we need to do this. Not only will it like give us a name, but we love Killer Instinct, and they put a package together, and they made a demo basically recreating the fighting engine from Killer Instinct 2 to say, look, we can do this. Please, please, please. And they had a letter kind of asking or begging nearly for it. Anyway, so the rest is history, right? And you can tell the game is made with so much love with the people that were involved in it. Mick Gordon wrote the music for it of, Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 fame. So you can get an idea of the quality of music. And Killer Instinct has always been an audio-visual feast, always. And this game held true to what that is. I recommend going playing it. It's you can download it on Game Pass. All the characters. If you do buy it, you get the arcade versions of the original game. Not sure about Killer Instinct 2 though. I bought it, so I've got the full pack and all the characters and stuff. I'm not good at the game. Well, I'm not really good at many fighting games, but I like playing them. And I find them fun. I just crank the difficulty down, and just smash on and have some fun with it. There is an arcade mode and somewhat of a story mode on here, but you can tell the budget was really like wafer thin in those areas. Like they focused on the presentation of it all, the fighting mechanics of it all, the online code and all that kind of stuff to make it playable. Everything there is solid. This whole movement that they're doing for the last couple of years is to bring attention to Microsoft and Xbox to say, look, people still want this. Like, people are still playing this. You've just had people tuning in, 40,000 viewers tuning into a game that came out, 7 years ago or something about that. And people are still wanting it, right? And it did have seasonal packs with new characters and stuff for, I think, a couple of years afterwards, and then it just stopped because Iron Galaxy had to go and do something else. Like, Iron Galaxy came in and took over from Double Helix when Double Helix, the original developers of this game, were bought by Amazon, right? So they had to quickly get another developer over. But I recommend you watching their documentary. It goes into very good detail on all that stuff. It's very interesting to me, and I think you would too if you're interested in behind the scenes stuff on the gaming industry or just big name games and how they're made, and the question of how are they made. Like, how did this get made? It was really like, how fast can we get this done? And I had like a year to do it. I'm just constantly surprised by this game. I've always got it installed. I don't play it all the time, but I just love having it there. Just the sound and the music alone makes me want to play it. The sound effects, like the graphics are still good. It did get a patch a few years ago, a handful of years ago now. Like, not a 1x patch, but it did like greatly improve the game. I remember playing this at launch. It was one of the games that I bought within the launch window ish, and it looked great then. All the particle effects and everything, you know, all the GPU sparks and stuff, like, it's amazing. It was a visual feast, and then they just improved upon it every time they patched the game. So go check it out. Check out the hashtag on Twitter, bring back KI. That's what everybody's been flogging around, trying to get the attention of Microsoft. And there's actually a lot of good content within that hashtag that you can find. Like, I've checked out some accounts that have, you know, matches that they've posted online, or other fighters that are on Twitch, and I've checked them out. And even just Maximilian, if you go check him out, this isn't a massive plug for him, but I do recommend checking him out. He's very entertaining. He has a lot of insight within the industry because he knows a lot of people, and he's been involved in some pretty, you know, high level stuff. So he's not just a random guy like me, you know, who just wants to be a part of things. He actually is a part of things, and he's hosting this stuff now. That's amazing to see, you know. So let me know that I'm just not going to talk about it too long. I've already gone at length. From what I really wanted to do was just to shine a light on this and say my part in the conversation, because I want a new Killer Instinct game. You know, you see NetherRealm Studios pumping out Mortal Kombat games. You know, they've got a high budget, and Street Fighter's still pumping their stuff out. You know, there's a new King of Fighters 15 game coming out this year, and Guilty Gear Strive is coming out. So there's all these fighting games that keep coming out now in the last handful of years. And like Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or Dragon Ball Fighters, however the hell you want to say it. I love that. It's one of the best fighting games I've played in years. But Killer Instinct is one I always roll back to, and I want to see it reborn again with a proper budget. Keep the same art style if possible. Get Mick Gordon back. Get the team together. Like, I don't want it to come back without the right people, you know? Like, they nailed this game. They nailed it. And you know those people are still out there and around and would come back. I want it to happen so bad. And just imagine how it would look now, you know, with the power of the Series X and Series S consoles, and, you know, Windows PCs, they have their own advantages and whatnot as well. But yeah, tell me below, like, are you a fighting game fan, or are you just like a casual fan like me who will play a range of fighting games and not particularly good at them, but you still enjoy them because they're fun, and, you know, they don't ask too much of your time. But particularly with like quick resume, I can just jump in and jump out, you know, have a couple of rounds and bash, and come back out and play something else. So yeah, let me know below, what's your favorite fighting game. Mine would probably be Killer Instinct or Dragon Ball Fighters, I think. One of the two. I need to go get Mortal Kombat 11 at some point. I really want to play that. But yeah, so I've spoken at length about Killer Instinct for a while, and let's just move on. So we'll get rid of that video. So this next topic, I know some of you are probably overhearing about it, but I don't care, and I want to talk about it, right? There's been a lot of shit happening in the last 5 years around Zack Snyder and the DC films and Warner Brothers, and there's online hate constantly left and right for Zack Snyder, and I don't understand it. I just don't. Like, he's a super talented director. His movies are like his own signature. Like, you just know that they're his. And it's just been since he made Superman, Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, that it's just odd that things started turning for the worst very gradually. At the same time, where you hear reports of Warner Brothers executives, none of them are there now, but well, most of them are gone, but you started hearing stories about them not being too happy with the reception, or they're not making Marvel money. And then you start seeing all these articles coming out, and they're all saying the same stuff. They're all using the same language, and it's all negatively geared towards these movies. Meanwhile, there's me and a bunch of my other friends that have enjoyed these films are like, what? You know, did we watch another movie? Because these movies are fucking fantastic. So we never quite understood that. And I've been on the fringes of just watching things peeling out over the last couple of years. I kind of walked away from being involved in the conversation, but Zack Snyder dropped a quote that I want to talk about, and to me stuck out, and it's worth discussing, right? So this comes from Cinema Blend. They did an article interviewing Zack Snyder about the movie and the book that they wrote that came out. Sean O'Connell, I think his name is. He wrote a book about this Snyder Cut and all the behind the scenes things and how it came to be, and interviews with actors and Zack himself. So they started getting into the topic of all the critics and the bloggers that would pile on, and how they're wrong now. Like for years they're saying it didn't exist, it had never happened, and they're all saying the same things. And now is their credibility in question? All these bloggers and the access media, they call them. So before I get into a quote with Zack, I was going to do this later, but I think I'll start with this is the quote that I was going to discuss, but there's this video I want to play that shows you an example of what I'm trying to get across, of how these people are all saying the same stuff. Now there's a little clip, I'm not going to play too much of it, but Film Gob on YouTube, he's been covering a lot of this, and I've said a number of times that you hear the same things from the same people online, tweeting the same thing, all the blue check marks on Twitter, using the same terminology, the same verbatim. And Film Gob has a few videos on this where he collates a lot of that, like screenshots from people, or tweets, or just videos of podcasts and stuff like that. So I'll just let this play for a little bit, because this guy kind of wraps some of it up.
Access media, they have meltdowns because they've been busting their ass for 5 years being a Star Wars fan for access.
But guess what? I'm not. I've been busting my fucking ass being a Star Wars fan for 5 fucking years.
I feel
on
the
the show.
same.
And then when it doesn't happen, they have teddy tantrums like the babies that they are.
You could not live with your own failure.
So what he's hinting at there is some of these guys are
Back to me.
in the pockets of Disney
But Access
and Marvel.
Media is having an absolute meltdown about this. Oh, why releasing the Justice League Snyder Cut sets a dangerous precedent.
Dangerous precedent?
Just don't know if that's a good precedent to set.
Just like, I think this is kind of a dangerous precedent to set, and possibly open some doors that I don't know need to be opened.
Like, I think there is a weird precedent that this sets, right? Not only
There is again?
I think it sets a dangerous precedent. And
There it is again? Like, they're all saying the same shit. Like, they've been given a script to
I'm
follow.
not gonna bullshit you.
But this guy,
I'm in a really good mood right now.
that guy's an asshole. He's been a hater since day one, and he's started backflipping when he got sprung. When it was finally announced that this thing's coming out, and he's trying to save face. Anyway, I'm not going to give him any screen time. So this is a quote that I want to touch on. Now that you've gotten a little hint of what I'm talking about, how the access media all say the same stuff, and that's just a very small part of the overall arc for the last handful of years, where they're all spouting the same tribe, right? So Zack Snyder says, yep, it's on screen, very good. I just think that's sour grapes. There's really no other way to say it. We know the people who are the architects of that narrative. So I think he's talking about the guys behind the scenes, the execs at Warner Brothers. Like, they're coming up with the story to feed this access media to say what they want out there. So the people who are the architects of that narrative, and it's pretty obvious what their agenda is. Like, they want to get rid of the movie. They want the conversation to stop. They want to deter fans, and they want to deter moviegoers, and blah, blah, blah. Those are people that I've been held back from confronting by wiser people in the room. Because I'd love to get at some of these characters. Some direct conversation would be nice. Just to say, one, you don't know shit about what you're talking about. And we can break down everything they've ever said. I can make a list. There's a few of these guys where I could just get a list of everything they've ever said that they thought was right, and I could tell them every single thing they've said is wrong. And so, in what world do you have any credibility anywhere to anyone? I would love the opportunity to just say to the world and to the fandom in general who these fakers are and what should be done to them or with them. It's just a bunch of BS. In regards to that toxic fandom, or it's a win for toxic fandom, like, there was a narrative going around that was being pushed out where all the main places that, like the video you just saw, they're all using the same terminology about the toxic fandom with this Snyder Cut movement thing, people wanting to get it moving, getting it happen, you know, for justice for Zack and all that kind of stuff. So, and all these places started painting it as a toxic movement, and it sets a dangerous precedent for toxic fans to give them what they want. And that's kind of what that conversation was, and that's what he's referring to here. So in regards to that toxic fandom, or it's a win for toxic fandom, again, in what world does this toxic fandom raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for suicide prevention? How is that toxic fandom? They've probably achieved more than any other fan base and done more good than any other group. So I don't understand. So he makes a really good point there, and it's a point that doesn't get told or noted too much in these Access Media articles, where the fan base, like, to me, like, yeah, there's obviously going to be some outliers that are, you know, they'll paint things in a bad light. Like, there's always a raw egg, or sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? A bad egg in the good ones, you know. But to date, the movement itself, movement for the Snyder Cut thing, whatever you want to call it, release the Snyder Cut movement, it's raised more than $500,000 for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which, you know, that's all good and it's awesome. Like, for any other reason, that's fantastic, and you can't really say otherwise. You know, that's amazing, and he's right. Like, the money that they've raised there, it's gone to where it's going to do some good and literally, like, legitimately saving lives, right? But why is that important? Because Zack Snyder, you've probably heard the story before, I'll just touch on it just briefly. Zack Snyder, not to undermine the actual situation, don't get me wrong, committed suicide during the filming of Justice League, right? So that's where all this emotion comes from, and, you know, it was the charity of choice because it made sense, and he's been a backer of that foundation for years anyway. So it just made sense for the fans to go, look, yeah, we want this, but we want to do some good as well because we've got this momentum going. What else can we do to do some good? And that's why. It's not to get any clout or anything. It's just to be like, all right, we're getting some traction here and we're getting a lot of momentum. What else? What good can we do? And it's amazing. Like, it's a group of people that are, not only are they clutching Warner Brothers down, but they're, you know, doing some legitimate good in the world as well. So I'll never understand the hate that Zack gets. I don't get it. He's super nice. Everyone that I've read interviews for, or video interviews that I've seen him with, no one can say a bad thing about him, right? Like, he's just super nice, and you don't hear any bad stories about him on set. Every actor or actress that's worked with him is always like, yeah, he's super inclusive and always wants to make sure people are okay, and, you know, blah blah blah, always talking to them about their role and giving them the chance to kind of flex their muscles, you know, saying, all right, what would you do, you know, handing it off to them. A collaborative workplace as a director with their actors. So all this stuff comes out and it just doesn't add up, right? So all I can do is peel it back to the fact, I'll say fact, but the appearance. There's more to this besides this quote and this that I've talked about other times and on social media, where it just appears to be a little peek behind the curtains of Warner Brothers trying to still orchestrate some kind of way to not let this happen. You know, and because it's going to paint them in a bad light, and they don't want this movie to come out. What's his name? Rob, God, I forgot his name. He's a guest on the John Campea show. I don't watch John Campea, but Rob, God, I can't remember his name now. Someone's going to tell me, but he does a show called Robservations on his own channel, and he did a very good descriptor of what's actually happening, because he knows some people that are behind the scenes at Warner Brothers, and he's worked with Warner Brothers before, so he's not just a no one. He's got a long history in film, being an editor and stuff, so he knows his stuff. But he's basically said that he's heard word from these people that are like, yeah, look, Warner Brothers is a house divided. They're doing everything they can to interfere with this. They don't want it to go ahead. Warner Brothers is pinned down because Warner Media as a whole entity is owned by AT&T in America, the communications conglomerate monster. They own the whole Warner Media, you know, everything, Warner Pictures and DC underneath, all that kind of shit. So what they say goes, and they're the reason this has happened in the first place. But Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada at Warner Brothers are still like, we don't want this to happen. Yeah, how can we stop this? And they're still trying to put out hit pieces. Every now and then you'll see an article. Basically, if there's any negative article that's trying to backpedal some of the positive narrative or the fact that this movie is coming out, it's probably going back to them that they've supplied some of this Access Media some news to spout out there to try and turn the narrative. But what they don't understand is that this story is way too bigger than them now. Like, they're not stopping what's happening now. Like, the movie's happening. It's finished. Like, Zack has literally finished it. Got the budget. It's all done. All the post stuff's done. Like, he's got the cut done. It's coming out March 18th. So if this turns out to be good, that's going to be the next big step. Like, if this movie is not good, like, it's a 4-hour film, I can't wait. I'm going to be turning off my phone. I'm going to order a pizza or two. I might, stock up on something healthier, but I'm just going to enjoy myself and put my headphones on and just lose the day. If it comes out on a weekday, I'm going to apply for annual leave. But if it's good, what does that mean, right? That's another hurdle. Like, it's come out recently in an article that's just been pulled down. I tried to get it before coming on to do this, where someone close to Zack, he's talked to him, throughout this whole process, has basically admitted and said that Toby Emmerich himself has not stopped being a dick. In his words, he's been a dick since day one, and he still is. And Zack's taking a lot of heat behind the scenes for this. It wouldn't surprise me if Zack doesn't work with Warner Brothers ever again on his own terms, just because of all this. Like, I think he's just been fighting this good fight to get this justice for not only his movie, but because of everything that happened with his family at the time and the fandom kind of rallying together to make it happen. And he saw a chance that maybe he can get some closure done, not only as an artist, but as a human and a father. All that kind of stuff is involved in this. It's huge. And all you're doing is fighting this one executive, basically now. There's this one guy who's trying to make it extremely difficult. But kudos and props to Zack, man. Like, he's got strong shoulders, that guy. Like, I don't know many people that would put up some of this crap for so many years, and even now it's even heavier in the industry that's happening now in the world that we're in, and all the landscape is changing. So this is some of you might just think of this quote and not really think too much of it. But if you know some of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes and have been involved in the movement, I don't like using it as that word, like, it sounds bad, but that's what it is. If you've been involved in it in any level, like I have for the last 4 years, you know the stories that have come out, and you know the people that have been talking and leaking information as to what's happening. And you've been there since before the hashtag of release of Snyder Cut, now throughout the whole thing. And what he says here, because you've seen all the articles, you've seen all the patterns, you've seen all the headlines, how they all match, and they all use the same words, and they all use the same verbatim. And when he comes out saying this, or he just calls them all out, basically, like, he calls them out without saying it, but he does as much, if that makes sense. Like, I just went around in circles on that, but you know what I mean. That's pretty huge. I didn't see too many people run with that, but I thought that was there's some insight there to pull and extract a conversation from. So let me know what you think. Like, if you think I'm just really reading into it, which maybe I am, but I don't think so. Like, just for the evidence that I've shown here, just a small snippets of the patterns that are out there, I don't think I'm wrong on this. And I think that's what he means. And tell me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think I'm pretty good and right here. So that will do me for today. Like, I've pretty much only wanted to talk about Unicron, Killer Instinct, to shine a light on that in my little corner of the internet, and as well as Mr. Zack Snyder as well. So we're under 35 minutes today. I wanted to keep it shorter today. Just thank you to everybody that stuck around with the longer one last week. So I kind of promised myself make it a bit shorter this week, just in that regard. So yeah, get the conversation going. I want to see some comments below, or even on my Twitter. I'm on there pretty frequently when I'm working on stuff on my computer. I've always got a Twitter thing open. I've got a link to my Discord in the description below as well, and I've got a link to my other channel that I do with Dan and Jamie as well, for Let's Talk Games, where it's more gaming related stuff. So if you want to head over there and check us out, that'd be fantastic. I forgot the soundbite as today as well for the sign off. I need to get into the habit of that. And you can see my batteries have just finally run out on both of my lights back there. I need to refill those. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there with me. I know this wasn't more of a fun, fluffy episode, this one, but sometimes you just need to talk about things, you know, spit facts. So anyway, you can follow me on, or go to Uncle Chunt. You can find all my shit there and subscribe and follow all that crap. But until next week, till all I won, may the power protect you and Bumblebee Tuna. Yes. Yes.
Like, comment, subscribe.